It's Tuesday, February 14th, 2017, and I'm about to go live with my syndicated radio/TV broadcast in about an hour and 8 minutes at Infowars.com/show. But I had to come in early to break down some absolutely critical information. The reason this is so important is that I have studied the deep state for 30 years. Been politically active for 25, as you know, been on air over 21 years. I've really studied the deep state. I've written books on it, made films about it. And if you go back and read those books and watch those films made 15, 16, 17, 18, 20 years ago, it's like prescient. It all came true. Well, I wasn't prescient. The globalists laid out their plan. They have the Grammys and the Emmys and all the big TV shows that are for the general public that is dumbed down disinformation. But in certain publications, like Foreign Affairs, put out by the Washington Post, and basically a mirror of the Council on Foreign Relations, Foreign Affairs quarterly publication or bi-monthly publication, they actually tell you what they're doing. And in two different articles in Foreign Affairs that came out yesterday, they basically said the establishment is just looking at killing Trump. Now, this isn't some Hollywood producer saying it. This isn't, some singer or Hollywood person saying it. This is the establishment saying it. And that means they're running the flag up as a total threat to Trump. Roll over, you're dead. Now, I'm going to get into General Flynn, but of course, ladies and gentlemen, his resignation is only going to put blood in the water. Now, CNN, Flynn's resignation doesn't end controversy surrounding White House. General Flynn led the movement with other military leaders to say no to backing Al-Qaeda and then ISIS and al-Nusra in Syria and the killing of hundreds of thousands of people. It was a great moral moment for our military and our intelligence agencies. They finally hit bottom and decided to not follow criminal orders that they've been following for decades. A real come-to-Jesus moment. And so Trump knows about all this, brought in Flynn. They've released the communiques that Flynn supposedly made, which were not secret. He's the national security advisor in waiting of the elected president at that time, December 15th, who was the president-elect, setting up the phone calls with world leaders, working around the clock for the new agenda. And they've released the CIA, State Department, transcripts of what was said. The Russian ambassador, who he's supposed to talk to. That's what the president's national security advisor does. Well, I'm not going to get into sanctions with you, but the president wants to open things up and wants to have a clean slate. So and he repeated what Trump had said at press conferences and tweets. He said, the president's policy, the president can meet with the Russians. The president can sign treaties. Then we see if Congress ratifies. The president, we elected him. He's not a goddamn Russian spy when he talks to the Russians. They made the president all powerful in their New World Order, and then Trump comes into the Constitution, kills their TPP, kills their New World Order, announces the rebirth of nationalism. And they start flipping out with this, everybody's a Russian spy narrative. Alex Jones is a Russian quisling. Roger Stone's a Russian agent. Paul Manafort's a Russian agent. Flynn's a Russian blackmail person. And this is John McCain and Lindsey Graham and the horrible warmongering neocons that have been caught backing Saudi Arabian jihads worldwide. Working with Europe to open the borders and flood Europe with 5 million, 80% of them military-age men. This total treason against the West, against the Renaissance, against free market, against everything decent. And they sit there and they say, oh, and the president listens to weaker need people in his inner circle that say, oh, see, you have to run from this Russia thing or they're going to say you're a Russian spy. All because he said, Russia's not expanding, not doing anything to us. We shouldn't have overthrown Ukraine. We need to deal with Islam and China that's radically expanding. And they turned this around in a total and complete, absolute mind trick where Flynn puts out a statement, I didn't talk about sanctions. And they go, oh, really? We have the transcript of the recording. They asked you about sanctions. You said, talk to the president. You know about his public statements. He's open to trying to have a clean slate. Flynn said exactly what you're supposed to say for the president, who is the most powerful branch of government. It's supposed to be the legislative, the executive, the judicial. Go back to the founding documents. Because the biggest group is the people's representatives from the states, the House and the Senate. Then the president that executes that and the laws, and then the courts that sit there and referee a few things. But that's supposed to be the biggest branch. Now, the strongest branch is the president. They've given all this power. Under their claims, Obama just opened our borders and said, I don't care if you have leprosy. We're not going to test you. Come on in. Outside of law, total treason, and they claim that power. If Trump had that power, he'd be involved in sedition against the country. But now they say, oh, my God, because a couple of old neocons and globalists want to have war with Russia and think Russia's weak, which it is, and want to encircle it and push it. Russia's only strong once it starts getting its ass kicked. It will fight back at that point. They got nuclear weapons. Just because their country's falling apart, they were under 80 years of globalist communism, and they killed most of their population fighting World War II and being under communism that our globalists put on them, doesn't mean we got to go have a nuclear war with them, which everybody loses. So let me explain what's really going on here to everybody. The Machiavellians, the globalists, think that if you don't think evil and backstabbing and twisted and all about global domination, you're weak-minded. No, we can think Machiavelli. We know it's not good for humanity, and humanity's already in so much trouble and already has so many crises that we really need to try to work with people and watch them very, very closely, trust but verify, and have an open hand and say, let's have real détente, let's build an infrastructure, let's build a space program, let's build advanced technologies, let's develop life extension, which they've already got, let's deploy that, let's launch the space colonies, let's do it all. That's not a wimpy, silly worldview. Oh, you're silly, everybody's evil, that won't work. Bullshit. We've already been run by the globalists who want to make the average person in their own documents dumb and poor. You know what? You don't have a right to rule. Go back to hell where you came from. But here's the key. Paul Watson links to the Foreign Affairs particular article I'm talking about. There's another one. The Kremlin is starting to worry about Trump. I'm going to read these articles in entirety on air today. In fact, I almost get distracted by my guest. I have great guests that come on, but I may just clean the slate of guests today because I need to read all this because this is from the mouth of Lucifer. They say there at Foreign Affairs, which again is only for globalists. They put it out, only the establishment reads it because they think you're too dumb to go read it. And they're like, oh, we're battling the war on truth. Get your truth here. But now they realize the lies don't work. And so I see this in history only when they're about to execute really horrible devastation. Starting huge wars, you name it, setting a nuke off in D.C., anything. Talking about time to kill Trump. I mean, Obama has gotten a bunker. This is in the news. 2 miles from the White House and is recruiting with Soros an army for a Bolshevik-style revolution. But what's crazy is you read, and I woke up at 3:30 in the morning last night, and this never used to happen. I used to sleep like a dead pharaoh, folks. I mean, I sleep like a rock. I woke up, I've never, here's what's happening right now. You can see it intellectually. You can also feel it. There was a coup over America under globalism by stealth. There was a counter coup with Trump. They're launching a counter coup right now, and there's incredible things going on right now. This is an amazing time to be alive. And I feel sorry for people that don't have the historical gravitas or understanding, even know what they're dealing with or what they're facing or what they're looking at. But when they come out in these articles and they say everything I've said, but from their perspective, it's frightening. Few things frighten me, but to have this much confirmation of my analysis of the enemy operation, which came from my analysis, And to realize Trump synced up, not because he's even listening to me, but because he gets it. He's smart. He knew this before I was born. I know the inside baseball. This is a long fight. And I look at all the sad, dumbed-down people that have been made slaves of this, and they don't know how hard good people are fighting to try to give them freedom. It's just painful. It's almost too much to actually handle. And to see these snakes go, okay, we're not going to lie anymore. Trump wants America and the world to be free. Trump wants America to take over the whole global system that we stole and that America built. And he wants this big, super powerful system. And he wants to actually empower humanity, and we're not going to let him. And the Russians don't want that either because they want their own power. And like they're devilishly talking to the devil, and the Russians going, Trump's going to break all of it. He's going to bring it all down. Join us against Trump. This is some sick stuff, man. This is sick. This is sick. This is the devil talking. It's not even that article. There's a bunch of them. I read like 4 of them last night. Russian insiders fear Washington establishment will assassinate Trump. I say foreign affairs. It's foreign policy, but it's... I always tell the truth, even when I make a mistake, because foreign policy is foreign affairs articles in the Washington Post to the public. So it is foreign affairs of the CFR, but foreign policy. Man, when you hit the zeitgeist so hard that you can't even tell lies, even when you're not trying to tell a lie, but your brain takes the information and translates it out true, because they admit this is the Council on Foreign Relations. They just don't want that stigma, so they call it foreign policy instead of foreign affairs. I'm calling it foreign affairs because it is foreign affairs. And I'm not just bragging. It's just, compare that to the average person who's totally unconscious. And everybody used to be like me 100 years ago. This is scary, folks. Our spirits are being stolen. Our understanding. This is so hardcore. And you read this stuff, and it's just like, okay, Trump really is a real revolution and wants to empower poor people, and he is going to build factories in the black areas. And you know what, Russia, you really want to deal with America that powerful? Join us. Come on, we'll share it with you. Just help it, Woo! Man, you talk about, and telling Russia, we're going to kill him. We're going to kill him. And they even announce it, but the one lie they tell is their biggest truth. They say in 2 different articles I read, they go, Putin's canceled the Bolshevik Revolution celebration. And they say, he did that because he's afraid of revolutions. No, he's part of the revolution of bringing Christianity back. Putin's real, and they're trying to mop up communism and the old hardliners in their government right now. But they spit it and go, because he's afraid of revolution. No, he said the Bolshevik Revolution was bad, communism was bad. He's actually saying it, he's doing it. He's announcing, we want God, we want sovereignty. Russia's saying, we want Christ providence. Just like Trump did, by example, January 20th. This is huge. So even if they kill Trump, and no matter what happens, folks, they're killing the family right now. They're putting out psychological warfare systems that are going to end us. And humanity at the final cliff of cultural and spiritual death, the Russians, America, the Japanese, the Brazilians, the Italians, people all over are going, I don't want to do this. I don't want to die. I don't want to not have kids. I don't want to give over myself, because Elon Musk says merge with machines or die, and the globalists are all announcing their crap. You're not able to have kids in the future unless you go to the government and have some composite engineered humanoid, because everybody's going to be sterile. I told you that 10 years ago. Now they're announcing it. It's all a damn plan. It's pure evil. And the people turned over to the power trip, they can't see or hear what we're saying to them. They just go, Russia is a power structure that wants to take over. We must beat them. Trump is blind. Trump is a chump. Alex Jones is a chump. They don't want war with Russia. Russia thinks they're better than us. We'll dominate them. And the same globalists saying that are trying to dumb us down and teach 2 + 2 = 5 and saying you didn't build your business and trying to break up families. It's satanic. It's attacking everyone. It convinces everyone that you're going to be number one. You're going to have the power as long as you bring these people down. That's not true. We have to organize ourselves into chivalrous, good, strong organizations that reinvoke the rituals of the birthrights, that reinvoke the rituals of the rites of passage, that stress people in a good way to flower into what they're supposed to be, and that have a culture that admires human strength and worships what God made, because God is what we worship and we're made in the image. This is all a satanic ritual against the most beautiful, great thing on this planet, humans. The whales are great. The elephants are amazing. We're 1,000,000,000 times better. We can do anything. This is all the test to the next level. You don't just think God just gives his creatures unlimited power like spoiled children right away. No wonder these Luciferians feel all the power of the universe and the ideas and think they're God and want to go crazy and take over. That's the devil. That's the spirit of Lucifer. Because if you're not part of that, you're just part of God and are already ascendant. When you look at Chucky Schumer, and you look at all these New World Order people, and you look at what they're doing, and you look at what they're involved in, and they are Satanists, ladies and gentlemen. And there is a real struggle against evil taking place right now on this planet. I mean, you look at the Michael Moores and the Gloria Steinems and the Maxine Waters, the Nancy Pelosi's, those are sucked dry, empty husk zombies that are just there completely on delusional power trips, just doing whatever they're told, just marionettes. They're only skin deep. They're just waving in the wind. They're not the wind, they're just waving in it. But those of us that are awake and know what's happening are alive. And that spirit's coming into the world right now, and the enemy feels it. Told you they're going to start arresting people in Pennsylvania with the Sandusky situation. They arrested his son, reportedly one of the procurers. His daddy was a procurer. Told you Sandusky was only the Renfield. Count Dracula still sits there in Penn State. Count Dracula only gets the trainees to rape kids. They're not just raping kids. They're slicing their throats. But long after they torture them, and torture them real hard. So you get something through your heads out there, all of you. You sign on to this evil. You keep making your jokes about Trump and what's happening as they arrest pedophiles from Pennsylvania to California, as Weiner prepares to be indicted for child porn, as all of these criminal groups get rolled up. You just remember what side you were on. Good God, look at what you stand for. Look at how physically ugly your leaders are. And that's a manifestation of the fact that that's their spirit. And that's what they want. And they want ugliness. They like ugliness. The Kremlin is starting to worry about Trump. This article is sophisticated. And what's crazy is to suddenly see them go from constant lying and having articles that are just a talking point. Keep regurgitating, he's KKK, go away, USA's evil, KKK. They're now dropping that. And here's the message of the president. They are pushing this purge that they spun this thing that, well, Flynn said he didn't talk about sanctions, and the Russian ambassador did ask about them, and he just restated the president's standing policy of wanting to have negotiations and a more open relationship. I mean, I've got the articles. It was, the big news is the globalists, the breakaway deep state, was spying on Flynn while he's in there. His only sin is he's so genuine and so good and working against all this, he doesn't realize how they would spend that type of stuff. When they have some guy speaking Russian walking over to me, I look over, where's the camera? Oh, there's somebody, Or I'm sitting there at dinner with active duty Navy SEALs, somebody walks over and goes, Alex, I want you to talk to Trump about nuclear submarines for Taiwan. And I look, where's the camera? Oh, yep, there they are. And there's a guy just like, I'm dumb, sitting there filming. And it's just like, so they could run back to the intelligence agency and goes, here's Jones acting like he's got contacts with Trump, trying to sell submarine deals. That's how it works, folks. I'm sitting there at dinner drinking a beer and shoveling Wolfgang Puck appetizers in my mouth. And this is the kind of crap I deal with on a weekly basis. And so that's what Flynn and everybody who's used to his own military culture and trying to do a good job and telling the truth. And, oh, yeah, we'll line up the calls. Okay, we'll get the Russian ambassador, line that call up for tomorrow with the president. Okay, we'll negotiate talking to Putin. Now, sir, I can't talk to you about the sanctions, but you know Trump wants to have an open relationship, so we're going to try to work with you and try to have some mutually successful things for humanity. Oh, my God. Flynn's been blackmailed. The president's top guy, when he's president-elect, which you're supposed to start doing in the transition, but see, they know the public's ignorant. They don't know that's completely, totally standard. They're like, let me tell you something. Michael Flynn one time sat on a toilet and took a shit. Let me tell you something. But see, they know you've done that, so they wouldn't say that. But it's equivalent. Did you know that as the National Security Advisor, he's supposed to be on the phone with the Russians and the Chinese every day, that he talked to the Russians about sanctions? Oh, my God. And then he lied about it, but he didn't lie. But see, that's the lawyer talk. Oh, we have the transcript. You said I can't get into sanctions with you, but you're the president, I know, probably wants to work on that. And, of course, the president then, I guess, got advised, or Flynn probably just got sick of it and said, I'm resigning. Not a good move. That's how they trick you. In fact, I haven't talked to any of these people, but I bet that Flynn just said, sir, I don't want to be a distraction. I'm sorry. I probably should have been clear on that. I'm going to resign. Trump said, well, all right, but keep advising me behind the scenes. I mean, I bet money that's how it went. And now they're like, victory. There's Russian spies everywhere. Let's bring down the Russians. And this is for when they start a war with Russia, because they got operatives inside the military, you name it, and then saying anybody that did before the war is a Russian agent. And who would have known? Why, they're saying in France, they're saying in Germany, they're saying everywhere, if any nationalist movements come that don't want open borders to Islam and don't want anti-Christian groups everywhere, well, you know what? They're secretly, you heard them first, Russian spies. And the State Department is in open revolt against Trump and Rex Tillerson, battling Le Pen, who they say is a Russian agent. And then they've got spies around the clock around Le Pen waiting for her to go to a cocktail party or an event and shake the hands. Of course, the Russians trying to work with them. That's what all the countries do. And it's like, oh, we got a shot with her, with this FSB person. See, Le Pen, her dad wasn't a paratrooper in World War II that went back in there to take out the Nazis. They didn't fight for nationalism. They didn't fight to get France when it was under NATO early on and it was going to be a vassal state. They didn't seize the nuclear weapons at the airport and take France back and all the rest of the stuff. Le Pen wasn't involved in the coup to take France back from the globalists. No, Le Pen's a Russian. He's not a Frenchman. And the daughter's even worse. And just like my family battling the Russians in the Cold War, well, that was all just a shill, folks. We're Russian true. We even got a Russian out of 60-something people working here. It doesn't matter. She was in the military and honorably discharged and worked in Black Ops. She's bad as well. Can't trust her. Can't trust an interrogator for Black Ops. They're not even trustworthy. Nobody is, but Hillary and John McCain and Lindsey Williams, and because they're the ones, they're the globalist coup. They're the big international bank takeover that sold off our jobs, sold off our factories, sold off everything, and is shutting it all down and turned the colleges worthless and tried to create a civil war. And they've set up a bunker 2 miles from the White House with Obama commanding it, with George Soros with 30,000 change agents trained to hit the streets with comedians and producers and everybody every day. I've got like 8 articles I saw this morning with people saying it's comedians, you name it. It's time to kill Trump. We're going to kill him. And then misrepresenting everything he does. Taking everything he does that he doesn't even know what his government's doing, because the State Department, everybody's just rampaging out of control, trying to embarrass him, trying to sabotage him, trying to screw up. Paul Ryan, oh, we're not going to have tax cuts. Yes, you are. See, Trump's failed their test. He said, no, we're doing tax cuts on poor people, middle class. They know that'll make you wealthy. That'll break the back of centralization. That'll break the back of people being dependent. Bannon said it. Trump said it. That's the plan. They mean to break the globalist forever. They mean to stop them. They mean to expose them. They mean to create so much wealth that it's so much easier to go get a job and get paid 5 times, even if you're poor, what you would on welfare, that you get self-respect and that they don't get to turn you into a zombie that's just begging to be plugged into, you know, a virtual reality matrix and just basically drugged into oblivion. I remember reading white papers about this 20 years ago and telling folks it sounded crazy. Now I open the newspaper or I look online and it's like world leaders, Elon Musk, Apple head. You're just gonna, kind of a pun. And what's it mean? He's the head of Apple, the Apple head. Yes, the head of the apple, the poison apple. Their poison knowledge, which is just a twisted version of reality. You have the knowledge of good, but see, we're going to teach you how to be evil. We're going to teach you how to screw people over. We're going to teach you how to be a rat bastard. And have to teach you how to bite it out. They're like, you're going to merge with the machines or you're going to be obsolete. Well, what they really say is we're going to kill everybody. And we're going to be such gods, you won't even matter. But first, we're going to make you ugly and stupid and poison you and get you to accept evil so that we have a right to you. Because if you declare your birthright as sentient and conscious and say, I want free will, and say, I want the secrets of the universe, and say, I want to be with God and I want to be good, well, then you don't have a place at their table in hell. And so they must poison you so they can rule you. I don't want to be a Nancy Pelosi or a Chucky Schumer. Take one look at those dead-eyed zombies, those walking dead. Take one look at those people. They're Renfields too, folks. They're not doing the blood-sucking. Schumer's got the look, though. Tell you this, Pelosi ain't doing the feeding. Pelosi's a little zombo, totally freaked out by what she's involved in, but on a power trip and arrogant and narcissistic. But Schumer, that's a big old Dracula walking this plane. And Michael Moore has kind of reached Dracula level. George Soros is big old Dracula, but there's bigger Draculas back in that shadow. They turn themselves over to the worst stuff in the universe. And they know I see them. That's why I don't have any fear of them. God, ever submitting to them is death. Ever having them win is death. Not for me, not for my ego, but for the species. Oh, I'm selfish. I realize my life's like that, but I'm part of the continuum of good people, and I know we're better than them by trillions and trillions and trillions of light years. Total differences in dimensions, complete different paradigms. They see well-meaning people as schmucks. They see people that actually want to empower humanity as fallen when they themselves are completely fallen and create rivers of pain and ugliness. The good news is globalists can hardly reproduce, and they're diseased and mentally ill. That's why they're obsessed with technology and science. They believe that will make them ascendant, because by the inbreeding, they have made themselves susceptible to the spiritual disease they're under. God almighty. See, for one globalist Dracula you see out walking around, there were 5 or 10 hideous experiments, deformed, mentally ill. I mean, all of them. The royal families all just locked up, huge deals of just completely insane, but I mean, not like your sweet insane persons. I mean, there's not many of them that can function, and they can only function when they're doing evil against good people. See, they need the blood, and that's metaphysical. They need your soul. They need to hurt good people every day, or their God deserts them. They're the most horribly fallen, enslaved people. They are humans, but all they have is a demonic will to crush good people. That's all they have. That's all they'll ever be. A demonic will, and I've set my will against them. And I'm asking you to set your will against them, and Trump has set his will against them as well. And we're going to, like a laser beam, like a particle beam that just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. We're going to just focus and focus on them and do good things in our lives and be honorable and not fear and focus on God and focus on life and focus on blue skies and green fields and little fish swimming around in happy ponds and happy trees and just focus. Focus on the children. Focus on them. We're going to defend them. The things that have been done to them. We're going to go against the enemy. And we're going to drive through them, and they can feel it. They can feel God's will going through them, laying them low, taking them down to the depths they swore they wanted, showing them who their God is. They will fall forever. Now, I'm going to be on in about 38 minutes, Infowars.com, but this rebellion against God will fall. They already know they're falling. They already know they're losers, and they're trying to take us with them. And everybody knows that in their heart who hasn't been infected by this. And even if you've been infected by this evil, you can turn back now. There's a paradox. Because it's easy to make fun of their slaves and their minions, and that sometimes that gets to them and gets them out of it because they ridicule everybody else. That's their culture. It's like the mass psychology, the peer pressure. But at the same time, there's got to be a way to lovingly reach out to their minions who haven't been turned over to evil completely and somehow get them to disengage from the cult they're in and open up to the wider universe. But everything we see, the attempts to dominate culture, the attempts to dominate language, the attempts to dominate men and women together is an attack on the species. So wherever it comes from, it is pure spiritual and physical and genetic death. And just look at what they push and look at what they do and look at how they try to get people to be ugly inside so they hate everything else outside of that and believe that a fallen world will somehow make them transcendent, and pulling everything down will not bring you to the mountain. We have the technology, the will, the culture, the spirit, all of those things together to build the stairway to heaven. But building is what does it, not tearing down. That said, though, when you're faced with pure evil, you have to take it down. And when the rubble falls, it will crush the innocents. And that's one of the greatest mysteries, to know how far to go. Because on this plane of existence, good fights fire with fire. In fact, if good wanted to be evil, it would be infinitely worse than what these fallen people could even imagine. And that's why those of us that are good and tied into God have to watch what we say and what we speak into existence with these enemies, because these fallen creatures aren't as smart as we are. And we give them ideas. So remember that. I'll be live in 35 minutes, Infowars.com/show. This is an emergency transmission. They're trying to bring down our republic. They're trying to overthrow everything good. They're trying to have Trump run scared, and then they can paint everybody as Russian agents and start a war, and they believe have some big cataclysm. You're like, why would they want that? They've got all these big buildings, all this crap. If all the big buildings and computers and Hollywood won't suck your soul, a big, gigantic thermonuclear war might do it. But they only want to do it if they'll think you'll go to their side during it so they can really feast on you. You want to get sucked into vampire holes with these people, go ahead. But I want to warn all of you that are cynical and giggling that serve the system, you know deep down I'm right if you've got any spirit left, any soul left. I'm Alex Jones, and you have been warned. Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash and gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.